So this is a small video I'm making to, I plan on showing this to the MBA students during our Little's Law lecture, IRT. And this little model represents the doctor's office visit we often start students off with when we teach Little's Law. So first I want to go through the process, go over the process, and then I will show, start putting in the people in and discuss the operational metrics. So first of all, we got our process boundaries dictated by this wall over here. Whatever's inside is in the process boundaries. Over here up top, we've got our input that's going to come in, and down here we've got the output that's going to flow out. The little cogs are going to enter the system on this conveyor belt, and then these little yellow control arms will represent resources like doctors and nurses performing activities on patients by the cogs. So this arm will take a patient from the left and put it to the right, left to the right, and so on and so forth. So after being worked on by three resources, an item will leave the system. And if you notice here, I've got red and yellow conveyor belts to indicate speed. We'll get to why that's essential. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start the process and let it converge to steady state. So I've added an arm. Just a second. It's putting in too many patients at once. So each cog represents a patient. We're getting one patient per certain time unit. Now, the downside about this program is we don't have exact timers. That's all right. And now the first patient is exiting the system, and now the system is officially in steady state. So let's take a look at what's going on. What is the throughput of our system? Again, where would we see it? If we look at the rate at which cogs are entering or passing through this wall, this represents the throughput. And notice that the rate at which they're coming in equals the rate at which they're going out. And how can you tell the rate at which they're going out? It's by the gaps between the cogs, right? So the rate in is rate out. This is principle number one we teach. Second thing, let's look at the inventory. What is the inventory in the system? Well, at any given instant, if I could pause the game, for example, of course can't see this. There, this is a better pause. We can now stop and count all the little cogs that are in the system. I'm not going to count them, but this would represent our inventory. And for time in the system, paused. For time in the system, of course, we would track this cog, say, and measure how much time it takes for this one cog to flow through the entire system. This would give us the three operational metrics: inventory, throughput, and time. Now let's talk about dynamics. I'm going to do two things. So first of all, I'm going to fiddle around with my throughput parameter. Okay, how am I going to do that? Well, this arm over here is currently inserting one patient or one cog at a time. I can make it go as high as 3. Let's see what happens when I've tripled my throughput, right? 3 times as many patients per time unit are coming in. We could see, first of all, the process as is not stable because these yellow arms, pause it, these 3 yellow arms cannot handle the throughput because they can only do one at a time. So in a non-stable process, we see our queue length building up, and eventually it's going to go out the door. I'm going to fix this because I don't want an unstable process. I'm going to make all of them be able to move 3 cogs at once, and I'm just going to clear the inventory so that we have a clean slate, and we see a system that reaches steady state pretty soon. Okay, so what have I done? I've increased throughput. Okay, now notice all the cogs are arriving in batches and leaving in batches. So if you think about the time each individual cog spends in the system, that quantity is actually unchanged. However, what happens to the inventory? The inventory is now tripled. So basically, instead of processing 1 cog at a time, we're processing 3. And we're working in batches. Triple the throughput, triple the inventory, time is unchanged. So that's metric number 1. Now, in the same system, I now want to decrease the time in the system. Now, how am I going to do that? Well, see this chunk of yellow conveyor belt? what I'm going to do is I'm going to speed it up by turning it into a red conveyor belt. Go here and do that. And now the cogs are moving at a much faster, it takes them, not much faster rate, right? But it takes them a lot less time to move through the system. Perhaps this is tough to see, but there's another thing I can do. I can change, this is tough to see with the change of the conveyor speed alone, but what I can do is I can upgrade my yellow arms into these super fast sorting arms. Okay? And now we can see, whereas there was a little backlog here before, now the first blue arm is actually waiting on the cogs. So it works faster. And as the system reaches steady state again, the speed or the time taken for a cog to go through the entire system has decreased because I've made my little workers faster and because I've made this conveyor belt faster. And again, I don't have numbers here to back this up, unfortunately, but hopefully this gets the idea across. So by decreasing time in the system, that's what we've done. Let me ask two questions. First of all, is the throughput rate affected? Well, no. The throughput rate, the rate at which customers are coming in the door, depends on this yellow arm over here. However, the inventory in the system has gone down. So if things are moving faster through the system, when we pause, maybe I should do a count for the class, then we would see less cogs in the system. Anyway, thank you for listening. I hope this you found this cool, and I plan on using this for more than just Little's Law. This is a factorial.